All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about the closed notice record. We'll go over the process of adding, submitting, deleting, and unlocking closed notice records. And then we're also going to talk about the associated to-dos and how they're created and completed. So closed notice records, it's the last child record of NFT record. So permission to access it is controlled by the same permission that allows you to access anything in the NFT record. So if you have the NF transition-agent and NF transition-state view permissions, you'll be able to see this. To edit, you'll need the NF transition-agent add change, and then to delete, you'll need the delete level. And then another thing about the closed notice record is that it's sent to the state after it's completed. So to do that and to see this button, you'll need to have the send to state /save CTA /submit notice permission. And so if you can't access the NFT record, which would include the closed notice record or the send to state button, you should just request permission from whoever manages user accounts at your agency. So closed notice records should be added whenever the participant is no longer receiving transition services. So when you're done receiving transition services, or if it's been decided that the participant is no longer going to transition, then you should add a closed notice record. There are several different reasons as to why the participant no longer needs transition services, and that can be identified in the closed notice record with the closed reason field, which I'll show you in a second. So the real purpose of a closed notice record is just to drill down and basically explain why you're closing a participant. So in order to add one, you need to have at least one notice and eligibility record, and that notice and eligibility record needs to be reviewed. So if it's not reviewed and it's no selection, the app will tell you that you need to make sure that that gets reviewed, and then you'll need to acknowledge the to-do that comes along with it, like acknowledge notice complete or acknowledge notice denied. You'll need to clear those before you can add a closed notice record. So once you've done that, which this one has been, and you'll see that the acknowledged to-dos have already been cleared, I'll be able to add a closed notice record. Also, since this one was marked complete, I have a reevaluation due to do, but as soon as I add a closed notice record, this reevaluation due to do will be deleted, because as soon as I'm adding a closed record, I'm indicating that I'm about to close the participant. So reassessment is not going to be needed, so that to do gets completed automatically by the system. So to add a closed notice record, I'm going to highlight the closed notice node and click the add button. And then the system's going to prompt me for the close date. The close date should be the date that the participant stops receiving NFT services or the date that the agency ends the transition attempt. So close date's required. I'm just going to put in today's date. You can either type it in or use this calendar control guy. Select today. And then something else is that the date close needs to be after or on the initial interview date, CTA date, transition date, if it's added, nursing facility admission date, and date of prior institutionalization, if it's added. So that was a mouthful. It was basically, you know, all those dates happen in a chronological order of where the close date's at the end. So it would make no sense for close date to be before any of those dates. So that's just a quick little system check that makes sure you didn't make a mistake or accidentally fudge the numbers. So I know that mine lines up in that way. You know, my initial interview date's 8/15. All these other dates are prior to, and these are just submit dates. But you get the point. I'm going to click add. All right, so now I have added a closed notice record, and that reevaluation due to do was completed, and you can see it's removed from this list. And then now a send closed notice to state to do was created, and then this can only be completed by actually sending the closed notice record to the state. I'm not ready to do that yet, but I will show you the closed notice to do is very similar to all the other to-dos. You know, it's the same way where the due date and reminder date default to today's date at 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. and you can change them. You can use these calendar control guides to change it, or you can just type in the fields. And then the title and description, Those are also editable by agent users, but I will just remind you that as soon as this to-do is completed, it will be deleted. So you don't want to put any important information here that you want to save permanently to the record. So that's the send close notice to state to do. All right, so to actually submit this record, I have to just fill out all the required fields. I can find that by using the missing button, but it's really just the case close reason. So I'm going to actually just fill this out in the app, but if you ever forget, you can use that missing button to remember what's required. Something else really important to point out is that the reason for case closure, or the close reason, I like to call it, this list changes depending on whether the participant has transitioned or not. So since my participant has a transition results record added, this list is going to be shorter because just the reasons for closing a case after they've transitioned, there's just fewer of them versus if they hadn't transitioned at all. So if I actually delete this record, which I'm going to, you'll see that the close reasons double in size. So now I've completed my deleted my transition results record. If I go back to this close notice record, you'll see the list of reasons has doubled in size. So keep that in mind, and don't think that the app's broken when you see it different close reasons one time and different close reasons another. It's based on whether they've transitioned or not. So keep that in mind. Something else to point out is if you don't feel like any of these meet your reason and you need to do other, make sure you describe what that is so that the state has some idea of why you're closing it if you've selected other. There's also these add today buttons whenever we have these memos, and it'll add today's date and the user ID. Transferred to another agency. This is a nice drop down that's full of all of the agencies. This is just in case you use transferred to another agency. That way you can specify it if you know. So that's how you use that. And then lastly, there's the agent comments field. And this is just for any other applicable comments related to closing the participant. So once you're completed, which we are, very short record, I can put fake comments here. I can spell right. And now if I send this to the state, you'll see that this to-do is completed. Okay, there's my success message letting me know that my close notice record was submitted and my to-do is now gone. Something else to point out is that if there actually were any exceptions or transition results records added that weren't previously submitted, the app would try to send them all at the same time because the exceptions, transition results, and close notice are all sendable records. And so anytime any of them are added, the app will try to send them all at the same time. So if you have fields that are missing that are required in those, it would have stopped me from actually sending the close notice record and make me fill those out first. But since I didn't, it sent it and let me know. And now I have a little lock icon next to it because I am now locked out of this record and it's read-only and I can't change anything since it's sent to the state. If you realize you made a mistake or you need to add something, you can request that the state unlocks the closed notice record for you. To do that, all they'll do is, write in, this is a memo field, actually just looks smaller since it's read-only. So they can type whatever reason they need to unlock it based on whatever you ask them. And then they'll uncheck this little checkbox here. And then you guys will be able to edit the record again and the state will be locked out of it until you send it back again. So when you do this, the send close notice record to state to do will come back until you resend it again. And so the date submitted and submitted by were filled in as soon as I submitted the record. If you have to resubmit after the close notice record is unlocked, those dates will be filled in. And if for some reason you do this multiple times, the resubmitted date and user ID will just keep overriding whatever was there. So that's how that works. Lastly, if you need to delete the close notice record, If it's before you send it to the state, before it's locked, you can just do it as an agent user as long as you have that delete level permission. If not, you'll need to, you can see right now, this delete button is grayed out. It's because I've already sent it to the state. So in those scenarios, you'll have to request permission. I mean, not request permission, you'll have to request that the state does it for you because they can delete records that have been sent to the state. So that is the closed notice record.